Hey, Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, good to be here.
I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a former agency owner. I ran a web design shop. I have a high-end WordPress shop for about 12 years. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. And my most recent venture is Smart Pricing Table, kind of a play on proposals that we worked through at my old agency.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into that in a little while, but how did you get into the agency business? What made you start your agency?
Well, I think for like a lot of technical people, I just did not like having a boss. And I was working in Seattle at a medium-sized corporation. I had done a SaaS product back in high school before SaaS was really an acronym. It was online staff scheduling for fast food restaurants. And I did corporate for a couple years and just wanted to get back to my entrepreneurial roots. So I quit. I planned on being a freelancer, and I won't get into all the details, Jason, but I lost the ability to type. I had like chronic RSI, chronic back pain, like my whole body was just kind of messed up. And I only hired because it was my only option. And then I got hooked. Other people advancing the mission, that's a very exciting thing. And that was the beginning. And then my agency grew to probably about 10, 12 people at its peak.
Awesome. That's great. So, when, how long did it take you to start hiring people for your agency?
Well, the first one again was out of necessity. I had like some friends that were helping me while I couldn't type. I was mostly programming. And at that point, I'd gotten a few contracts for my freelance operation. And I remember the first time I went and got a desk at IKEA, and my employee, my very first one, uh, it really hit me 2 hours after I'd been out of the office that the mission had been advancing. Like he had continued to make progress. I think that's really what got me hooked. And then I realized that it's not actually that complicated. And when you start hiring, you start getting a lot more time back. And then we just I think milestones, right? You hire a developer to take over that work, then you hire a designer, so you stop doing design work, and then I promoted my lead designer to project manager, so now I'm not project managing. Holy cow, this is crazy! And then the icing on the top, Jason, was when I hired my first sales guy.
Hmm.
I had some people tell me I was too small. I hired him when I was like six people. Oh my word. One of the best decisions I ever made to not like you already have the stress of revenue, right? And then to have the stress of actually getting the jobs and closing the deals. Like I'm a big fan of distribution of labors and sometimes distribution of stress. That was a really big hire. And then my favorite thing, I'm sure some of your listeners can connect to this, that moment where a prospect became a customer and a project was completed and you don't actually know the client. That's a big day as the owner.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and I also warn people a little bit about that too, right? Like when you hire all these people to get your time back, and you start going into meetings. Oh, Jason or Joe, we don't need you in this meeting. And then you go into the next meeting, and then the next meeting, and the next meeting, and they're like, we don't need you, and you're like, well, shit, they don't need me anymore. And then you get depressed, and then you're like, wait, they don't need me for all the old stupid shit I used to
Right.
do.
Right.
I have actually kind of transitioned from an owner to a CEO.
Right.
Now I need to do CEO shit.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were. Yeah, last week in our mastermind, we were chatting. I asked. I always like to open up in the first couple minutes and really kind of ask a question to get the members talking. And I said, look, toward the end of the year, beginning of the year, I want you. What is your guys' agency domino? What's that one thing you get in place, and then everything else starts getting easier, right?
Right.
It's kind of like what you were saying. Like you hired this person to do programming. Then they did programming. You hired this person to do management. They didn't manage it. Hired the person do sales. Like those are dominoes. Like you start getting one, and then all the other dominoes just start falling.
Right.
If anybody's old enough, remember it's playing with dominoes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like what I love. I think it was Collins, Jim Collins, who talks about the big mo, a company getting momentum. Those are some significant moments in that.
Yeah. What we talked about momentum, which always love. What were some things that took away momentum from you growing your agency?
Well, there's two things that come to mind. One, I think for so many agencies, lead generation is the biggest pain point. We were fortunate enough to be highly rated on Clutch.co. I don't know how big that is these days, but we were top three on an agency list of about, I think, 20,000. In fact,
Mm,
we were number one for a while, and I was paying, I think, $4 or $5, $6,000 a month, maybe eight at one point. If you were to take away the sponsorship, we were still extremely highly rated. But we were early adopters, and so we got tons of leads from that. But I think that's the biggest. That is what so many agencies struggle with. Like, how do I get leads coming in? How do I close them? And for me, we were a lot of one time work. I hadn't cracked the retainer. We were think mostly one time high end WordPress sites. And so we had, my wife can attest. I often talked about the fiscal cliff um, uh, with a lot of the one and done kind of work. So that was my biggest pain point. And then, of course, Jason, I'm an enthusiast when it comes to proposal writing. I hated writing proposals. The intensity that came with it, the need to go quickly was always a very, very big pain point with my agency.
mhm. What about the proposal process that stressed you out or that you didn't like?
Yeah, I would say that the two main things are you need to go quick. Every day that goes by, your odds go down. And it's funny how often customers will literally just go with the first engaged vendor. We overcomplicate sales. Like, no, just respond quickly. That's low hanging fruit. And but so there's a tension there. And then the second thing is you need to be accurate. So your proposal, your scope, your expectations need to be accurate. Otherwise, the proposal, or sorry, the project can blow up post sale and become a nightmare.
Yeah,
So those two things. So I've got to go quick, but it also needs to be high quality. Those things come together to what I call proposal anxiety, one of the bigger stressors in agency life.
yeah. I I remember when we got a lot of our business back in the day off Google from
Right.
searches. We were highly ranked. And I remember, and that's when people would actually call us rather than filling out, or sometimes they would fill out a form. But when they would actually fill out a form and I'd see it, I would automatically have my salesperson or myself call them right away.
Mhm.
I would say, "Hey, Joe, I'm so sorry it took me so long to get back to you." They were still on my website.
Right.
Like, it was just like, they were like, "What are you talk like, really?" I'm like, "Well, we're really fast." And then we just have like a little laugh. But it was amazing because I remember winning deals like you said. It's about the speed. We'd get back to them really quick. We'd meet with them. We'd present the proposal to them. They'd sign the deal. And then when we'd be in the kickoff meeting, they would always joke with me, be like, "Hey, I'm still getting proposals today, this
Yeah.
morning."
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's funny whenever as an agency you're kind of on the reverse side, right? Like you're going to solicit a vendor. Next time you do that, think about how compelling or like the temptations to just go with the first one. I
Oh,
was talking with I had an outreach campaign I was setting up, and I talked to a company for 20 minutes, and they weren't amazing, but they could do what I wanted them to do, and I just felt this like I almost I kind of had to slow myself down. Like, oh yeah, I'm talking to other people. I need to be careful to commit, and yet I struggle to do that. So
yeah. Oh, I mean, I think about the agencies I've hired in the past. The first one that gets back to me, I always go with them.
yeah,
'Cause there's other ones that get back to me like weeks later. And I'm
right,
like, if you're gonna get back to me weeks later, and you're trying to get my business, there's what, how slow are you going to be when you actually have my
Right.
business?
Yep. Yep.
Right? It's
Love it.
nuts.
Yeah. Often it's like an indication. What can I expect when I'm working with you?
Exactly. Cool. Um, and I want to talk a little bit more about the accuracy because, I always tell everybody scope creep, if I could say that word, starts in the first conversation. And really, the proposal is what protects you.
Right.
Because if you get a very generalized proposal to a prospect and then they sign it, they become a client. Well, now you have no guardrails. You have nothing protecting you. I remember signing up a deal, Joe. I signed up like this. I thought they had 20 pages. Like when I looked at their website, I'm like, yeah, they got 20 pages.
Right.
I gave them a price and I didn't have any page limits on the time. This was the
Mhm.
last proposal I ever sent without page limits.
Right. Right.
You want to take a guess how many pages they had?
I'm gonna guess 10x that, maybe 50x.
Keep going. They
A
had
lot.
over 11,000 pages.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the great thing is that you're unlikely to make that mistake again
Well, I never made that mistake again.
with that much pain. Yeah. I describe that as having handles to grab onto, right? You've got to be detailed enough that you have handles to grab onto, but you don't want to be so detailed that it feels rigid and obnoxious.
Yep.
Vagueness leads to what I call the vague vortex, where everything's getting sucked into it. You don't have limiters. You can't really call things to stop without either being arbitrary and being a jerk, or just you just have to take it, and it's a
Yeah.
losing game either way. So
Well, and even too, like, and look, there's never 100% that you can do it perfect. I
right,
even after this is probably maybe 6 months or maybe even a year later. I don't know. It was so long ago. I'm so old and decrepit now. I can't remember. But I just remember it was after this because I was like, I went to my business partner at the time. I was like, we are going to have the most detailed ass proposal. We were never going to get screwed ever again. And I
right,
remember coming into this one onboarding meeting because I always loved doing the first meeting. Like I just loved it. I didn't have to do it, but I wanted to do it. And I came into the meeting and I always review with the client what they purchased. I mean, like, all right, so we're going to do a 50-page website. We're going to set up an e-commerce store so you can sell some of the stuff that you have. And then he goes, no, we didn't sign up for that. And I'm like, pull the proposal out. I show him the proposal. I go, hey, Joe, like, this is what you signed up
right,
for. Oh, no, I didn't sign up for that. And he goes, excuse me, young man. He told everyone on his team, "E- excuse everyone. I need to talk to this young man. I was probably like 28 at the time or something. I was like, and he just ripped into me. He's like, I didn't sign up for this. I was like, this is your signature. And then, long story short, we just verbally went back and forth, like screaming at the top of our lungs.
right.
And he wound up becoming the best client after because I stood
Yep,
up to him because he's a big ass fucking bully,
right.
which I hate. But I took a lot of his money and he listened to us.
Yeah,
So detailed proposals can screw you, but you just got
right,
to make sure you stand up to them.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. And I think some of the times it's the layouts. I've thought about this very in depth, but if it's just all a wall of text,
Oh,
you've overwhelmed your prospect. They're not going to read it, and of course they're going to have expectation management issues. And so I think the layout of the proposal, the way it's set up, so that the content is digestible, is really key in that too.
so how much is too much text then? Or like, what do you recommend? Because we obviously have to have enough text to protect ourselves to let them
Yeah.
know what we're going to do, what we're not going to do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I'll answer that. The thing I'd say first, though, is you need to have a repository where you can take all the learnings from all the concrete you're eating as you hit, the concrete with your face, right? Like
mhm.
you need some kind of repository. And so I'm a really big fan of having reusable components, modules, line items that can get better over time as I stress test them through agency work. Okay. So, let's say, for instance, I'm selling a blog or something like that. typically when I'm scoping out a line item like that, I'll say, a summary sentence or two, the with what's the big idea, and then I'll say work included, and then a bulleted list. The bulleted list is anywhere from 3 bullets to 5 or 6. And then I might have some very specific limitations and I might have some upsells around that. But the reason why you need a repository is because you're going to test that with your customers, test that with projects, and then you're going to come back and you're continuously going to improve that component so that it yields the result you want. Do I need to raise the price? Do I need to put another limitation? Do I need to, adjust some of the structure here? Um, I always tell, the agencies that I consult, you want to define the spirit of the work. Okay. That not, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to have like, if you've defined the spirit of the work and it becomes 3x the size, you can push back and say, well, clearly that was not what was intended. But if you just say, I'm going to create a blog for $1,000, yeah, good luck. You're going to
Yeah.
be in pain.
Yeah, I'm a big component of creating a repository or like this huge template. That's kind of what we had. We didn't have cool softwares like that you've created. We'll talk about in a second. Ours was a huge Word document that I had to go in and just kind of eliminate things. Boom, boom, boom. And it just made it very easy for us to create a proposal within well under the 30-minute mark. Because
Right,
I found like some people just spent so long on proposals and like you're wasting all this time. I'm like,
right,
what if you had all this already? But it takes some time to get there too, right?
right,
Like you
right,
you got to like you said, you got to eat a lot of concrete, or I like to say eat a lot of shit, and then you figure out what you like.
right, right. Yeah. Yep. And for a lot of agencies, it's just I need some baseline structure. If you're just shooting from the hip, if you're grabbing old proposals, duplicating them, writing stuff from scratch all the time, that's not a system. Like you're gonna be stuck there. You've got to pause. Like with so many things in agency life, you need to pause and say, "What the heck am I doing?" and
Mhm.
start putting together some kind of process.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the software that you've created because it's really pretty cool. Tell us a little bit more of why you created it and how it works.
Yeah. Well, if you think back to what I was talking about with proposal anxiety, you've got to go quick. It's got to be accurate. About 8 years ago with my agency, this became an obsession. I wanted to crack this nut. How do I take this thing that is one of the worst parts of the job and make it actually enjoyable? And so that was our mission. About 3 years ago, we took it to the market. But Smart Pricing Table is interactive proposal software built for marketing agencies. I used to kind of have it a little bit wider than that. Not anymore. Like I know agencies. I ran an agency for 12 years. And so we have the type of features that agencies want. And we can give you the structure so that you can, build things quickly. So you can respond quickly, but also super, super accurate. It's a constant evolving product as we talk with hundreds and hundreds of agencies and we keep making it better.
That's awesome. Well, anything that makes our job easier, makes it faster, takes away, the anxiety of figuring out like, man, did I put this in there and all that kind of stuff. The software that you guys have created is really pretty neat. And I hope everyone listening, goes to check it out. Is there a special link or a special thing that they can check it out?
Yeah, so it's smartpricingtable.com/smart agency. That's got more information on it. You'll see some sample proposals. And then we've got a deal, Jason. Anyone that comes from the podcast, so smartpricingtable.com/smart agency. There's a 50% off your first 2 months. So there's a 14-day free trial. Here's the big thing though. If you're curious about it at all, I would encourage your listeners book a demo. I still do all the demos myself, Jason, which might come as a surprise, but
Yeah.
I love it so much because that's how we've gotten so much feedback. I like taking all of that and then working it back into our system with my team. And so I typically do about a 15-minute demo, no obligation. If proposal points are a pain point, I'd love to chat with you.
That's awesome. Well, everyone go check out what Joe has built. It's really pretty cool. Book a demo with them, and that's pretty neat, Joe, that you still do the demos. That's kind of like me. Where I always like that first meeting with the client. I didn't have to do it,
Right.
but I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
Um, and when you're able to create that, that's just it's it's a more enjoyable business.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah. It
awesome.
won't last. It won't last forever, but it's gonna
Yeah,
be hard. I love just the feedback getting, finding out different agency problems. But obviously won't scale to infinite. So
yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Well, awesome. Well, everyone go check out Smart Pricing Table and tell them we sent you so you can get those the discounts and all the great benefits. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.